All right, welcome back to America F1 as we review the 2025 Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, it was our 30th anniversary. We went to Las Vegas with my wife so we can watch the race up close. And as you know, it's a totally different feel when you watch the race up close and impersonal, and then when you watch it on TV. Because when you watch it up close, you only get that section of the track to watch. And the rest you have to watch like on the video screen. And so a lot of times what I'll have to do is I watch the race while I'm there, and I'll have to come back to the hotel either the next day or that night, according to what time the race was, and watch the race again to get the full totality of the race. But when you think about this 2025 Las Vegas Grand Prix, Max put on another extraordinary performance. For whatever reason, I still don't understand it. Lando was so worried about not having a good start comparatively to Max that he cut over on Max's line, but he cut over so much that he screwed over the racing line to get to turn one, and then he went off. And then not only does Max pass him, but since he has bad traction, George ends up passing him also. And then Max puts in a Max, as I call him, Maximilian performance, and he ends up 23 seconds ahead of one George Russell because, as we all know, there was a double DQ by McLaren. And watching it in person, I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming. I could tell you why. Because as they come down the back straight, you could see the McLaren kind of porpoising a little bit, but also the sparks from the McLaren were way more prominent than the other cars, like way more. And it kept happening. And I remember telling my wife going, ooh, I don't know if that car is illegal because it just keeps hitting the ground and the sparks keep coming up, and it's going to take a toll on that plank. But now Max is only 24 points from winning his fifth world title. And it seems everyone's talking about it, that the FIA are somehow kind of, I don't know, massaging things a little bit so it can be last race kind of championship when the last race will mean a lot. I mean, that's what the conspiracy theorists and that's what people are saying. Now, I personally just think Max is super lucky. He's like one of the luckiest drivers ever. I mean, if you take out 21, well, when you think about it, it's always been something when he wins a championship, right? Because 21, we all know what happened in AD 21. And then it was the cost cap, right? And then it was the illegal, what was it? Illegal breaks. It's always been something. He hasn't really won a championship where there hasn't been any controversy. And here we are again. More controversy. But regardless of that, you can't deny the talent. You can't deny that he's putting himself in the position always to benefit from a little luck. And you also can't deny that if you were to put, and I honestly believe this, if Max, Lewis, I might even say Charles, if you look at how consistent he's been this year, would have won the world championship by Austin. And really, the problems with Lando and Oscar, you could see in this race. And it's kind of typifies the whole season. Lando typically has problems with the first turn in races, and he'll lose, a lead. And how many times have we seen him lose the lead on the first turn? The Las Vegas, we'll also talk about my Vegas thoughts going to the race at Vegas, how they've improved, how things have improved since the first year, because we went the first year and now here we are in the third year, and how things have improved on track, how your race experience is better. And then I'll also talk about how the race experience was actually worse than the first year. And so we're going to talk about Max, we're going to talk about McLaren, we're going to talk about Ferrari, and we're going to give our Vegas thoughts. And we're also going to talk about Ollie Berman and his consecutive point scoring for Haas. No one is in Haas. I think it's 4 in a row or 5 in a row. And no one ever in the history of Haas has done that. And how he's positioning himself when both Lewis retires, which will happen because Ferrari's not going to be any better next year. And Leclerc leaves and he's going to go to Aston Martin. And I told you this 2 months ago. And I know we're a small channel, but I broke that story first. I just want everyone to know, if you're listening, we said it first. Nobody was even thinking that Charles was going to leave. We told you he was going to leave. We told you it was going to be Aston Martin. We told you. So we tell you a lot of things at our channel that happen. And then the other channels pick up. I don't know if they're listening or if people all of a sudden figure it out. But we know these things. And we know ahead of time because of some of the people we know in Formula One. And because they know that obviously we're not going to say anyone's name. But more importantly, because we're people person. We're people. What's the right nomenclature for that? I'm a people person. We're people friendly. We love people. We love talking Formula One and we love talking to people. And sometimes people tell us things because they feel comfortable with us that they might not tell the general public, or they might not tell the big news people because they don't want to disclose it. And then we never disclose our sources. But we do talk about some of the things that are happening in Formula One that you won't hear from other channels because they don't go to the races as much as we do, because we show up at the races. We don't just sit and watch it from the balcony or watch it on our television and then dissect it and talk about it. We actually go to the races and try to meet and talk to people and make connections and try to give you the best information that we possibly can. And sometimes, obviously, we don't give the best information because we're wrong and you're never going to be 100% in anything. But we do our due diligence and we do our best here at America F1. And we want to take this time to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving this week and wish you a happy holiday. And we hope everything in your life is going toward where you want it to go. And just to remember, just like if you're a racer, if you don't plan, you can't succeed. You have to have a plan. You implement that plan and you'll find more success in life. With that, come back so we can talk about the Las Vegas Grand Prix here at America F1.
Yeah, America F1. America F1. It's a golden run. America F1.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
Stop that. Max. There was no time during that race that I thought Max was going to be caught. He was putting in lap after lap. And for a little time, George looked like he could catch up, like maybe make some inroads when they open up DRS, that he might make some inroads. But Max was like, nah, I'm in clean air. Car's good. I'm gone. And there's nothing anybody else could do about it. And you could say that the second half of this season, the Red Bull's been the best car bar none. I mean, Max won. He won back to back. He won the other. He won in Austin. I mean, since the British Grand Prix, I would say the Red Bull's been the best car, and they've done a hell of a job since Lauren Meeks has taken over that team in developing that car to make it better and better and better. And they kept developing it. And now they're at the point where before, remember how Max was complaining about it, how the car didn't turn, how crappy the car was, to now, I mean, man, he's putting lap after lap, and you're like, there's no one's going to catch this guy. No one's going to catch him. And it pains me. It really does. It pains me. Because we all know I'm such a fan of Yuki. And Yuki I don't know if it's, no matter who they put in that car, they're going to be able to handle it. And I love Isaac. And I don't know if next year, unless they build the car that kind of suits his, obviously you're going to build the car for Max, but can you do something to tilt it a little bit for how Isaac likes the car? Because otherwise, I don't think he can succeed. I don't think no driver can succeed with how like Max likes the car. I don't think how he likes it is very specific, and other drivers, they can't deal with it. You know, they can't deal with the video game set all the way up to 100 sensitivity. You know, they just can't do that. And I don't want to see Isaac fail. Just like I didn't want to see Yuki fail, but more so because I think Isaac's a better overall driver than Yuki is, even at this stage, even though Yuki's been in Formula One longer. I just think Isaac's he just has a higher ceiling. I think Yuki, we're seeing kind of his ceiling's kind of right. You know, is he going to get any better? He could get better in his racecraft. I think he's faster than he's shown, especially if you put him back in the R&B. But now Isaac moves up, and then they bring in Lindblad, and then you team Lindblad. I guess they're going to team it with Liam Lawson, let's be honest, Liam's done well. At this race, he didn't do well. I mean, that was, the first turn kind of bumper cars, and he could have avoided that, it looked like. I mean, he was right. He just went right into him, and Bortoletto also went right into Stroll. I mean, just right into him. And no one really made a big stink about it because it's Lance Stroll, but to be honest, they were turning. Lance's car was there, and Bortoletto went right into him. Right into him. And I heard he apologized to Lance later in the paddock, but still, it was rookie. That's how Hamilton picked up so many places, because there was just chaos. There was crashes and people bumping into each other, and he just took a good line and avoided all that. Will Max win the championship? I don't think so. I still think Lando's going to win this championship. Why? Because I think Qatar is more suited to the McLaren, and I know they'll get the ride height. They won't have the ride height all the way down and won't have the porpoising because, Las Vegas is a street track and it's really bumpy. Okay, there's a lot of bumps and undulations going on that street surface. Because remember, cars are driving over that in the daytime. All right? So it's not like it's a perfect track that's built for Formula One or for professional car driving racing. It's not built for it. It's a street track. Okay. And it's got a lot of bumps. It does. It has a lot of bumps. And that's why I think the porpoising happened for McLaren. I don't think that'll happen in Qatar. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a McLaren 1-2 and the one was Oscar Piastri. I wouldn't be surprised because I think this track typically is suited for his driving style. And I think if you believe the conspiracy theorists, then you would believe that, well, they've done something and that's why Lando's looking better. And that's because Oscar just didn't forget how to drive. and his pace is way off of what it was. And he just didn't forget. He just all of a sudden didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden that great pace he was showing is gone. Okay. And we know that Lando's been there at McLaren longer, and commercially, marketing wise, Lando's the more commercial product. He's been on the team longer. I think he's better sponsorship wise. And that's probably why they would want him to win the championship over Oscar, unfortunately. And I know that's hard for people to hear and that's hard for people to listen to, but business is business. And you're going to make more money with Lando Norris winning a championship than you are an Oscar Piastri. And you don't have to like it, but that's just the reality of the situation, okay? That's just the reality. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it, okay? But I'm just telling you that's how it is. I'm going to sell more land. In Las Vegas, Lando Norris had a store. So, okay, you had the McLaren store. We went to the Wynn, all right? And in the Wynn, you had a McLaren store. You had a Plus 44 Lewis Hamilton store, and you had an L7 Lando Norris store. You didn't have an Oscar Piastri store. There was no Oscar Piastri store around there. There was a Lando Norris store. There was a McLaren store. So if McLaren has a store and Lando had a store, where was Oscar's store? There was no Oscar store. There was no Max store. There was no anybody else's store. There was just a Lewis Hamilton store, a Lando Norris store, specifically for them. Okay? And you could buy their merch in there. And the lines were long. You could look right there. The lines were long. And if you wanted the merch, which you could get online, but if you wanted it there, you had to stand in line. And that is why Lando's a more marketable person for McLaren. And you don't have to like it. You don't. That's just the reality of business. And remember, we in the podcast world and we as pundits and we as fans, the people owning these teams and the people running these teams think differently because it's about the bottom line and bringing in money to the team and to the people that own the team, right? Dollars and cents. Money makes the world go around. And sometimes I think a lot of us out there are naive to that, and we forget that if you have a Lando Norris world champion, say you brought in an extra $200-300 million because of the merch you're going to sell, and because of the advertising, even though I think McLaren has so many advertisers. If you look at the shirt, it's just filled. You look at the car, it's just filled with advertisers. But they're going to be able to charge those people more because now you have a constructor's world title, and then you'd have a driver's world title. So you can charge everybody more. Not only could you charge them more, but you could come out with a Lando Norris special edition McLaren, and people are going to buy it. People who buy McLarens are going to go get that. That's just the reality. So my prediction for Qatar is going to be Lando Norris is going to win. That would be good. If there's no conspiracy and there's nothing wrong with the car, Oscar Piastri is going to win that race and Lando's going to come in second. If Lando has found that pace, which I think he has because he was just eating it up in Las Vegas. I mean, purple qualifying. Then long as he doesn't bottle the turn off the line, then that should be it. It's a sprint race weekend also. So there's a lot of points to be made here. And I don't think Qatar suits the Red Bull as much as it does McLaren. And then I think if Lando Norris wins, Oscar comes in second, Max comes in third or fourth, most likely third. Then if Lando also wins the sprint race and we have a all Lando weekend, it's kind of hard to pick up 24 points with 2 races left unless you have a DNF when you have a good car like that. That's just a reality. But it'll be nice for it to go down to the last race and mathematically Oscar and Max still have a chance at the championship. So that'll keep butts in the seats and that'll keep sales up and everybody will watch to the last race. Because if the race was decided in Austin, people viewership would be a little bit down and people wouldn't watch. At least the casual fan wouldn't. Now, what do I think about? I was going to tell you what I think about Vegas, but I'll save that for last. Let's do 10-1 so we can talk a little bit about what we saw in Las Vegas. Ollie Berman, as I said before, this is his 4th or 5th. I'll put it up there. Point scoring in a Haas. Ollie's done everything that he needs to do, that when Charles leaves and Lewis retires, that he goes to Ferrari. But the sad thing about that is that he will have chances to win races, but I can't see, and I know. I can't see Ferrari winning a championship anytime soon. I just can't. Just because of how the dynamics of the team and how they don't want to change, and we'll talk more about it. But hats off to Ollie Berman, all right? Hats off. The guy did great. He looks great. That Haas, Komatsu's done a hell of a job, and I don't think he's getting enough credit for how good that car has looked and how good that team has looked. No knock on Gene. But how good the team has looked under Komatsu. Hats off to him. Esteban Ocon. He held off Lewis. He finished in 9th. He held off Lewis for, lap after lap. And Lewis would get close, but he didn't get close enough. And then when they finally opened up DRS, it took him a while to get past Ocon in a Haas, a Ferrari. But in the top speed, Ocon's top speed was in the top 5 of cars on the track that day. It was Hamilton. It was Ocon. I think it was, I'm just thinking this off the top of my head. I think it was Leclerc, and I think it was one of the R&Bs on top speed. In 8th place, which would have been 10th without the disc DQ, was Lewis Hamilton, who started the race on hard tires. They pitted him on lap 31. Now, we were sitting in the Hamilton grandstand, and we were right at the last turn, right before the last turn happened. So you could see him coming up off the back straight, and then they make the turn. Now, he was behind Hülkenberg for, I want to say, a good 4 or 5 laps. And then finally, he got right up behind him about lap 31. And it looked like he would pass him. There's no doubt about it. He was right behind him, and you knew either on the next straight or the grandstand straight or in the next DRS, he's going to pass him. But for whatever strange reason, and I could not figure this out, ladies and gentlemen, for the life of me, why they brought him in right when he's going to pass Hülkenberg. I think he was in 5th at that time, and Hülkenberg was in 4th because, the front runners had come in and they switched from hards to mediums, and Lewis was on the hard, so you're supposed to run the hard long. For example, I think Kimi did 41 or 43 laps on the hard, and Lewis only did 31. Now, there was nothing wrong with the tire, so my thing is, I was saying to my wife, well, I hope they run the hard 40 laps and then bring him in on, lap 40, 41 and put on the softs and let him go to the end on that. That's what I would have done because he was moving on the hard. He had great pace on the hard. The hards were the better tire. They weren't graining. Why they switched him to the mediums, I'll never know. If you put on the hard tire, shouldn't you run the hards as long as possible? Because you're doing an offset, okay? He started last, okay? He started 20th. So if you're going to get the strategy of hard tires, shouldn't you run them way longer than the people on the mediums? Why would you only run them 31 laps when the hard, obviously Kimmy did 41, 43 laps on them. So why would you only run them 31 laps if there was no graining on the tires? Why? It confounds me. And I think I know why. And I'm going to tell you. And everybody I know, everybody out there in the world, they're asking for Adami to be sacked. I don't think he's going to be sacked. And I'll tell you why. He's already been there. He was there during the science regime. He was there during Vettel. Obviously, either he's related to somebody or because of the culture at Ferrari, he's not going anywhere. So it is what it is. This is the guy you got. He should be better at his job, but it doesn't seem like he is just from the surface of listening and watching. We don't know what he does behind the scenes, but whatever he does behind the scenes, I don't think can make up for what we see on the track. It can't. Now, if he's not going anywhere, and this is what we're stuck with, why doesn't Lewis do what Carlos Sainz did last year and start doing his own strategies? Just start saying, the hards are good, I'm staying out. Why does he always acquiesce? I don't know if that's just not the type of person Lewis is, but maybe he needs to do that. Like, I wouldn't come in. The tires are good, staying out. What do you got to lose? That's the thing. That's the mentality. So I don't want to blow my stack here because it frustrates the hell out of me. But this is what I was saying about Mercedes last year. When you're not going to win a constructors and you're not in the constructors race where you can win a title, either driver's title or constructor's title, you should be taking chances. Because what else are you fighting for? Lewis started 20th. So you're running 5th on the hards. Stay out, man. What's the worst that can happen? You finish in 8th like he did, or you finish in 10th like he would have if there wasn't a double DQ by McLaren. What's the worst that could happen? Why not take that chance? And the reason why I think they don't take these chances is to protect their jobs. And I'll tell you why. Pirelli puts out a performance of their tires saying these tires should last between this amount of laps and this amount of laps. They'll give you a window. So let's say for the hards, they said it was, and I think it was 27 to 32. Now, if you're from Ferrari and you've done, the computer told me, and Pirelli has said between 27 and 32 laps, I should pit. Why take a chance? Because I can just say, well, that's what Pirelli said, and that's what the computer said that we should pit. So once I found some clear error where he wasn't going to come out in a lot of DRS train traffic, I pitted him. Job safe. Job safe. Well, okay. Well, that's what he said. He's just going by, what Pirelli gave him and with the computer. Where is the gut feeling? Where is what is happening on track? You pivot and say, well, they said 27 to 31, but Lewis is, damn, man, he's showing some speed. These tires look pretty good. Let's just leave them out. Hey, Lewis, you tell me when you think we should come in. Tires look good. You're right behind Hülkenberg. I think we're going to change strategy. You're going to go long. We're going to put on the sauce. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Lewis? That's a good strategy. Yeah, let's go. Let's go with that. All right, stay out. What do you got to lose? You got nothing to lose if you're Ferrari, but everything to gain. Hülkenberg, my man, the Hülkenberg, man, that's Sauber. Can you believe how bad they were in the beginning of the season and how good Hülkenberg or Bortoleto on any given day are looking? It's come a long way. The development in that car. They were literally, Who ever thought that they would have scored as many points as they have this season and wait until they're 100% Audi and wait till they have all that financial power and esprit de force that Audi brings to motorsport racing? It's a team on the uprise, I'm telling you. And it couldn't happen to two better people. I mean, I love Hulkenberg. I think this is a guy who's overdue for a win. Obviously, got his first podium this year, long overdue. Here's a guy who just, if he was on the right team at the right time, he'd probably won a championship. He has that talent. He has that consistency. But he just never was in the right place at the right time. And that's life. That's life. That's how it is sometimes. But I hope that next year they can really be vying for more podiums. Because I really think if anybody deserves it, it's the Hulk. And Bortoleto has all the makings for a future world champion. In the right circumstances, he can win a world championship, hopefully in the future. My man Isaac Hadjar finished in sixth, and Isaac's Isaac, man. The guy, first of all, when you saw the R&B in person in Vegas, best livery, one of the best liveries ever. First of all, the white looks awesome. Then they put the sparkly, like dazzly rhinestones or paint. I don't know I guess it had to be paint because you're going to put rhinestones on a Formula One car. But man, it just glistened at night when the lights hit it, and it looked, and they put a little like purple in. Oh, man, that car looked awesome. It looked great under the lights. Hats off whoever designed the livery this year for R&B and whoever is bringing the special liveries to R&B this year. That dude or young lady, whoever it is, they deserve a raise, no doubt. Awesome job. Carlos Sainz in fifth place. I mean, Carlos, he qualified in third. He should have, I thought, got a penalty in practice because he was qualifying where it's obvious that he impeded because he went off and he came back on track and he impeded somebody, but they didn't give him a penalty for that. And, if it was certain people, they'd have got a penalty, but okay, Carlos didn't get one. Great. He looked good, had a great race, finished in fifth place in a Williams. There's another team that is firing on all cylinders. Too bad, for whatever reason, Alex Albon ran into Lewis on the straight. And I think he just misjudged. He was in the slipstream and he was trying to pull out of the slipstream and he just hit the back of Lewis's car. And that could have thrown Lewis's, when he switched to the mediums, that could have thrown the balance off. I don't know. Most likely, considering they're on a straight going, 170, 180 miles an hour, because they weren't in the middle of the straight where they're going about 220. They're near the end where they're kind of decelerating. And Alex tried to pull out and he was going to dive in and probably take Lewis right there, but he kind of misjudged it. So he hit the back of Lewis's car and that ruined his race, obviously. But I think he got a 5-second penalty, which, they've given 10 seconds for that. I'm not going to sit here and was it 5, 10? Who cares? I mean, he just misjudged it and hit the back of the car. But the Williams, they're just like Sauber, great improvement over the season. They're going in the right trajectory. I think next year with the new regulations, I wouldn't be surprised if they're on the podium more often. And I'd like to see it because we all love the heritage of Williams and we all love Williams. At least I do. Charles Leclerc. Now, when you're watching the race, Charles was on it, man. He was on it. How he finished behind Kimi is a head scratcher Because Kimi was in the back. He had to come in early because he had damage, and he switched. He got a 5-second penalty because they said that he moved before the race start, and you could barely see it. It barely, like when you show the replay, you can't really tell. But if you look into his mirror, then you can see that the wheel kind of moved. If you're just looking at the car and you're trying to see, well, how did he jump to start? You can't really see it with your eyes if you're just looking at the car. And you play it over and over and over again, you can't really see it. But look into his rear view mirror on the side. Then you can see the wheel kind of slowly move. Not a lot, but just you can see a little momentum shift. Okay? And then that's how you know he did. And because he didn't think he did. He didn't. He was on the radio like, what are you talking about? I didn't jump the start. But yeah. But how, even with a 5-second penalty, does he finish ahead of Leclerc? And how are they not telling Charles to push? He has a 5-second penalty. You need to push more. We got to get into that 5-second window. It's another Ferrari mystery that's wrapped in an enigma. And for us who wants to see Ferrari do well, and I think every Formula One fan wants to see Ferrari do well, because if Ferrari's doing well, Formula One's doing well. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I think Charles has finally come to that realization. I think he came to it probably well, we broke that about a month, 2 months ago. We told you he was going to Aston. I think a little before that, when he has those road trips, because Carlos Sainz is his best buddy, and they hang out a lot. I mean, that's who he has a great relationship with. And Carlos, I'm sure, is telling him how great Williams is and how they treat him at Williams. They treat Carlos he's treated fabulously, like a king, like how Mercedes treated Lewis all the way up until last year. Okay? Or actually, all the way up until probably 2 years ago. And how Aston treats Fernando. They treat Fernando like royalty over there. And I think when Charles is hearing how Carlos is being treated and how his input is being listened to, and how when he has suggestions, they're actually implementing these suggestions, and then he thinks about how he's put all this time in at Ferrari and how they don't do the same things for him, and how he feels kind of like he has to walk on eggshells. And even though he's been with the team all this time, but it's always about Ferrari and never about the drivers, because the drivers are replaceable. But when you really get down to it, the best drivers aren't replaceable because they're the best drivers for a reason. And if you put, even though I love Ollie Berman, is he as good as Charles Leclerc? No. Will he be? Hey, he could be. You never know. He could be in the future, but right now, he's not. And is he better than Lewis? No. But the way they do things, they don't want to change, which is strange, because you would think if the way you're doing something doesn't work, you would try something different. But then if you tried something different, then that would say the way you were doing things didn't work. So that means that you were at fault for that. But you shouldn't look at things that way. You should go like, we're going to do best practices and we're going to pivot when things don't work. We'll pivot on the fly. A race winning team, like, look at Red Bull, man. Something don't work, they throw that shit out. Sorry for the curse word, but they throw it out. Okay? They throw out. Let's try something different. Let's keep getting better. Let's keep trying what works. Let's keep doing new practices if they are proven to work. Ferrari won't do that. Charles has finally realized that. It took him a while. And then I think he's done. And it's hard for Ferrari fans to come to grips with. But even Schumacher wore a Mercedes outfit. Okay? Even Schumacher. Even all the greats in any sport, whatever sport you follow, Joe Montana, threw balls for Kansas City. I never thought I would see it. Jerry Rice was in a Raider uniform. I never thought I would see it. Michael Jordan was at the Washington Bullets. Okay? You'd never think you would see that, but it happens. Not everybody stays in the same place their whole career. And eventually, they have to do what's best for them. Kimi Antonelli, that's 2 podiums in a row now that he's third. Got promoted because of the double DQ. Ever since they've had that little come to Jesus moment meeting with him, the guy's on fire. And it's always tracks that he's not used to. Have you noticed that? It's always these non-European tracks that all of a sudden that he hasn't raced in that Kimi's doing really well in. Hats off to Kimi. Keep it up. And I hope next year that Kimi can get his first race win. And if everything goes to plan with how this Mercedes engine is supposed to be, maybe we'll get more than 1 win. Maybe we'll get 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. I'm here for it. Love to see it. George Russell, as usual, does nothing. He's sick. George is, that meme is so on fire. Does nothing, gets a podium. And that's George all season, But you have to qualify up there. When you qualify third, there's not many people to pass, right? When you qualify second, who you pass? You only got 1 guy to pass. So long as you don't screw up, you don't have much to. You just stay your station. And, that's what George is doing. And when they give him a better car next year, don't be surprised if George Russell doesn't win his first world title because he's that good. You might not like him. I like him. He might not be the poster boy for marketing. I think he is. He just has a different way of going about doing things. I like George Russell. George Russell, I would bet, is in these new regulations coming up, is going to win a world title. He's Mr. Saturday. He's very consistent in qualifying. He doesn't make too many mistakes during the race. Pretty decent wheel-to-wheel battling. You heard it here first. I think George Russell will win the world title next year. I really do. What else can we say about Max that hasn't been said? He's definitely the best talent on the grid right now as we speak. He is one of, before I didn't have Max in my top 10. I had all these other people before this year. But to me, he's one of the top 5 or 6 drivers of all time. Right now, if he's quit today, I got him ahead of Vettel now. I got him ahead of a lot of people. You got Hamilton, you got Schumacher, you got Senna, you got Fangio, and I put Max ahead of Alonso. People, for whatever, have Alonso so high up. I don't have him that high. Not in the top 5, not in the top 6. I have him I think Prost is better, showed better talent than Alonso has over his whole career. And I got Max now, if not ahead of Prost, even with Prost. I would probably say all right. I'm going to say I got Max at 5. That's what I'm going to say. I got Max at 5. I think he's ahead of Prost right now. I had Prost at 5 before, but I think he's shown enough. He's done enough. Max at 5. That's where I have him. And you can put him in any order you want. Don't get mad at me. Hamilton, Schumacher, Senna, Fangio, Max. You put him in any order that you want to put him in. I'm not going to put him in any order. You can do that. But those are my top 5 now. And Max going ahead of Prost. So those are my top 5. And let's end the show. I didn't even get to do my Vegas thoughts, so let's do that. The food, comparatively to the first year, the first year you went to the Las Vegas Grand Prix where we sat basically in the same seats we sat the first year. And the first year, the food was free. They gave you free food, free booze, and they also had, in my section, was no music. All these other sections, even in the general, and I think that this is a complaint. This is a complaint. Complaint. Real danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Don't fail me again.
They failed me.
Don't fail me again. We would be honored if you would join us.
Yes. They were honored that we came, but they did fail. The food, chicken sandwich, it was hard. The bun was cold. I'm not going to even discuss the fact that you could go to general admission and they had all these DJs and bands playing. And then in my section, they had a DJ, but they didn't have like all the famous people they had in all these other, like Koval, East Harmon. We were in West Harmon, East Harmon, and over there by the Spear, they had music. It was like a party. But in our section, which had the space for it, no, they didn't. But the first year they did. But our tickets are more expensive than the other tickets. So why wouldn't they have music in our section? Like a DJ? Because you have the room. We're paying more than the other sections. So I didn't understand that. I didn't like that. And the food was bad. It was easier to get to track this year. That was more together than it was. We had a shuttle. So that was way easier to get to the track. You still have to walk no matter what. You're going to walk. At every race you go to, you walk. There's walking. Okay? So if you think you're never going to walk at a race, get over yourself. It was colder than it was, obviously, the first year. It was a little cold, but it was fine since, so many people. I also thought the fact that they covered so much of the track so other people couldn't see, I thought, I'm not a fan of that. I understand you want people to pay, but you also want people to be intrigued to come to future races. So I think that having some spots that public people could watch at least a little bit, like, it's like being at Wrigley Field. No, it's like being at in I don't know what the Giant Stadium, San Francisco Giant Stadium. You can go in the back and you don't have to pay. And there's like in the outfield, there's a gate that you can see onto the field and watch the games from there. And I like that idea because you can watch it. If you can't afford it, you still get to participate. But that also makes you want to go to something in the future. That's a future customer that you're capturing. So I think the idea of covering everything and having all these guards everywhere that tell you to keep moving, that you spent money on having there, so they can tell people to keep moving so they can't watch the race for free. I just think that's just bad. That's bad business, bad marketing. You don't understand that just having a couple sections where people can kind of peer in and let them peer in for a while is better for you, because they might, as a person just walking around, they might say, oh, that's pretty cool. Hey, let me look at this Formula One. They might look it up and then they might buy a ticket. So, and then you also can watch the race. You could go to the camera feed of the traffic feed, and if you didn't have the television, if you didn't have ESPN or you didn't have F1 TV, you could actually watch the cameras, the traffic cameras. You could watch it for free in Las Vegas. That's if you knew how to do it. You just go to the feed, and it's free. This is the longest show we've done, only because I was at the race, and I want to talk a little bit more about the race. They have, at other races, when you go to a race, all the merch is basically at the race, right? You go to the race, that's where all the merch is. But here, in different hotels, they had different events. So they had Formula One merch in almost all the major hotels in one section. And then they had a pop-up store at, what was that? The Venetian. And that line was ridiculous. before when we went, the line was, I mean, you could get in, you probably spend 10 minutes in line and you get in. This line went all the way out the hotel and down. It was incredibly long. Excuse me, to buy merch. I'm going to say some of those people were probably waiting at least an hour and a half just for the opportunity to buy merchandise. That's crazy to me. I'm going online and I'll purchase it there. But some of it was only exclusive for the race. So if you're not a Formula One fan and this is your only race and you wanted to get merch, I guess it makes sense. But it also is better to have those merchandise, sweatshirts, t-shirts, what have you, on site at the race so people can purchase it there. They've already purchased the ticket. Why wouldn't you sell the merch there? Because then you would sell more of it because the people are there. Why make them stand in line at a store? Doesn't make sense to me, but I guess they know better than I do, right? So you had the Hamilton store, you had the McLaren store, you had Lando Norris store, and all those stores you had to wait in line. You could also buy the Ferrari merch at Puma because they have a Puma store. You could go there to buy merch if that was what you're into. And it's always good to buy merchandise when you go to a race if you haven't been. Even get Las Vegas Formula One Grand Prix t-shirt, or you get the same one at Austin or Canada or Monaco, wherever you go, just to say you've been there, especially if you're from another country, and then you could say, well, I went to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I get it. They also had pop-ups in different places where you could go and see the drivers. They had, you have to stand in line, and there's one, they had one at Puma and had one at different events. Ferrari had one and McLaren had one. You just had to know where to go, and you could get the word out, and then you have to go stand in line with a lot of other people for the chance of maybe getting an autograph, or for the chance of maybe getting a selfie, or for the chance of maybe getting your t-shirt signed or your hat or whatever. They also had the F1 Academy, and they were signing merchandise if you wanted to go, because they had the girls' championship, and the poor girl who was winning the championship, or who was ahead, she, on the formation lap, she ran into somebody and lost the championship without even running the race. Gutted, felt bad for her. But I mean, it's the formation lap. Why are you following so close? But it happens, and it's happened to a lot of Formula One drivers. It just so happens it happened to her when she was leading the championship and she would have won. Or because she didn't. Man, things happen. It was cold. I thought the hotel where we were staying, we stayed at a different hotel than we did last time. The room was great. Better room. The food wasn't as good as we've had in the past. I think you also have to pay more. You pay $15 more for the cab because of Formula One. Each day, it's $15 more because Formula One is running those 3 days. So you pay more on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, $15 to whatever, on top of whatever it would cost. I think the logistics was better in this race than it was the first year, because obviously logistics get better over time as you go. We had a good time. Will we go back to another Las Vegas Grand Prix? Yes. I can honestly say that it is even though it's a night race and it is kind of cold, and things are definitely overpriced. Don't get me wrong. Hotels cost more. Everything. Las Vegas is the most expensive race on the calendar, bar none. But for us, it's only an hour and 10 minutes away, and we had a good time. So I would say Las Vegas did a great job overall. Thumbs up. Food could be better. Every section should have special DJs and all that. People paying a lot of money. You have the room. They have the room to do it. No section should not have that. Every section should be entertained. Next time we go, we'll probably sit somewhere different, just because we've sat in the same section for 2 times, and it's time to get a different section. There wasn't as much passing this year as there was the first year we went, or as much passing than there was last year, to be honest. And I think it was just something to do with. I'm going to end with this. This iteration of regulations, I haven't been a fan with, and I'm glad that they're over. I don't know what the next year is going to be like, but this year has been a disappointment. I haven't been happy with this regulations. I'm not a fan of V6s. I really like the V8s and the V10s. I'd rather go back to the V8s, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the hybrid and all this. I'm just not. All the green. I'm just not. It's racing. Racing should be about racing. Racing should be about burn the fuel, man. You're not, we're not trying to lead the evolution of electric cars. They have a series for that. Let them have that series. Formula One should be about smaller cars that are fast and nimble with super technology that can come into your car that you drive at home. And more people know that hybrids and those type of batteries are actually worse for the earth than a gas car is. So when that car is done, what do you do with those batteries? You have to put, they're worse for the earth. And overall, I think we went down and been sold a bill of goods that just didn't pan out. And it's okay, because it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to admit you were wrong and change. Don't keep going down the rabbit hole and spinning your wheels. I know I ran it and I shouldn't, but that's it. Say hi to Mike. Shout out to Mike out there in Thailand. We'll see you when you get back. Thanks for joining us. And as always, keep on racing, everybody.